45-minute tutorials before, and with no audio, which is wonderful. You can see everything, and I don't go back and do voiceovers. Okay, so what I have here is where we left off yesterday. I've taken all the animation off all the objects. I've deleted that. You can see in the timeline there's no red ticks. If I have everything selected and there's no red ticks, that means there's no animation on anything. There are other ways to tell, for instance, like going into the animation graph editor, and if there were any animation, there'd be lines here. We'll look at that later. So what I'd like to do first is, because we're going. Yep.
Can you show how to delete the animations again? I didn't quite catch it.
No problem. Let me set some keys. 1. Whoa. Okay, so you can see I have animation on that. And now if I select it, now I can show you Windows Animation Editor, Graph Editor. And you can see that there's animations in the Graph Editor. These lines represent animations over a period of time. And I could actually just select them all in here if you want and hit delete, and they would delete them. But there's no need to go into there. You can just click in the timeline here, hold down the Shift key and the left mouse button and it drags red. This allows you to move the animations around or shrink them or do all sorts of stuff. This is called animation key manipulator mode. But we would just like to delete them all. Boink. And so that takes care of it. Was that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. All right, so the next thing we need to do in order to make this a boned hierarchy item is to remove the hierarchy, because no longer is the shapes going to be controlling their position and rotation and stuff. The joints that we're going to make are. All right, so I'm going to go in here and go Edit, Unparent, and you can see it returns them all to their natural state. Oh, what is that? The pizza? I didn't freeze the transforms on the pizza. Oh, such a dirty file. Alright. So I'm looking over here to make sure that each of these is has its transforms frozen before I do anything. And I want to freeze the transforms, not reset them. Okay, so now they're all in place, but not connected. So I'm going to go to a right view, and once again, you should never apply a joint system to an object in anything but a right or front or a top view. Remember, if you do in a perspective view, it could go all crazy. So this is a wireframe. If you hit 4 on your keyboard, it turns to wireframe. 5, it goes back to shaded mode. 6 is texture. 7 is lighting. And 1 and 2 and 3 are various forms of display within the object. Okay, so here's our pizza right here. And I want to move that down to the bottom of the box. So what we want to do is get the same motion out of this that we did previously, and we're going to do that by using the joint system. So if we skip up here to rigging, we're going to create what's called a joint, and I'm going to just move this up a little bit, and we're going to talk about joints. So the way you create a joint or a skeleton or a bone or whatever you want to call it, technically in my other joints, is you turn this on, right, and it appears there, and this allows you to click somewhere on the screen and it places a node, and then you can click somewhere else on the screen and it creates a bone, and then you can click again. As long as that's active, it's green, you can click again and it'll create another bone, and you could do this on forever. And then if you click off of it, onto something else, like or you can right click on the screen, or just click on something else in here and it'll stop. It'll take it out of mode. Now this bone system here, right, doesn't render. It doesn't really exist. It's really just a mathematical equation, so you never have to worry about it showing up in your renders. If I were to hit Play Blast again, you wouldn't see it. Well, Play Blast might have it turned on. I'd have to go into Play Blast and turn it off. But if you were to render this, well, you don't see anything because it's an Arnold rendered, isn't it? Isn't it? If I were to render this, you can see that there's the can and the pizza box, but the bone doesn't show up. So for film, for film, you never have to worry about the bones showing up in whatever you're doing, or any kind of NURBS shapes or anything. We'll be using NURBS curves here as controller objects, and they don't show up either. So have you guys all created this bone system here that I've shown?
Not yet. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody create that. I want you to have 2 joints in it, just like that. If you look over here, joints show up in purple, and these little purple bits refer to the circles that not the in-between lines, but the little circles that control them. Because they're joints.
How do you make the joints default smaller?
Oh, yours really big?
Yes.
So if you go up here to Windows, Display, Animation, Joint Size, you can scale them up or down.
Thank you. There were like 7 of them.
Hi, sweetie. Yeah. Yeah, it can be hard to see, especially like when you're doing fingers and stuff. If they're huge, it's really hard to kind of get a handle on it. So once again, for people who aren't paying attention, because that's really useful information, display, animation, joint size. And we can also do IKFK, joint size, and joint labels and stuff like that. All right, so this here, right, operates just like the pizza box. Remember when we connected this to this, and then this to this, and we were able to rotate that up? So this does the same thing. If I grab this joint and hit rotate, it moves the whole thing. If I grab this and move the joint around, it moves the whole thing. If I grab this one over here and rotate it, it moves, but only per this one, because this bone here is a child of this bone here. Just like this box top here, remember, was a child of this. It's the same thing, except that these are objects made to control other objects that don't necessarily have the ability to bend or separate like this, right? Because it can be a whole, like a person would have these joints in it, and you wouldn't be able to bend the elbow because there's nothing telling it to do so. So how does a joint work? Well, let's place them first, and then we'll get into it. Oh, also you can translate these, but don't ever do that. Unless don't ever do that in animation or while you're animating, because it's bad and can have bad effects. But if you do, you can always, like, oh, I've moved that on accident. You can always just go back to 0, 0, because what this remembers is that where it is in relationship to this one. So if you do accidentally translate it, it's very easy just to hit 0 and it'll go back to where it was created from. Okay. Alright. So we would like to have this pizza box open using the bone system. So how does that work? So let's first of all create a bone system that matches where our pivots were before, right? So I'm going to put the first pivot here at the bottom, or the first click of the bone system here at the bottom. Remember, that's where on the box we put the pivot before. And then I'm going to put the second one here where I want the box to open, to do like that. See, and it's created a bone that way. And then I need one here at the bottom of the can, so I'm just going to continue on there like that. And then I need it to go through the can in order for the computer to understand that the can is attached. I'll explain it in a second. Oh, I also probably need one here for the pizza, don't I? So I'm going to not have any of this selected, and I'm just going to create a single node, and I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard. So that's a bone without an attachment. But I want this bone to be attached to the main bone. So I'm going to hit P, just like we did for parenting, and you can see it's created a little bone there for the pizza. So if I were to open this up, I can call this one pizza underscore joint. In this one here, I want to call lid joint. And this one here, I want to call box joint. And this one here, I want to call can joint. Great. And don't worry about I mean, you can name that can joint too if you want, but we really just need to name the first one. So if we look at this, right, when we connect the box to these joints, which is what we're going to do next, you can see that it'll move just like it did before when we didn't have the bones in it. The pizza will be able to spin. Do I need another joint in there in order for the pizza to be able to spin? Because I might. Alright, we'll talk about that in a second. I think we need 2 joints in here, which is hard because you can't really see. So I'm going to select the pizza joint here, and then with this selected, I'm going to create another link there. And this is part of the joint weirdness, is that if I select this joint here, since it's connected to the main joint, it selects it all. Anything directly connected to the top of the hierarchy, which is our box joint, gets selected in it, and I want the pizza to move separately. So, hold on a second. So what I'm really doing is just creating a node above so that when I grab this, I can move the pizza without it worrying about that. Okay. So, how does this all work? So these bones here have what's called an envelope around them. And the envelope can be told to encase the vertexes. Here are the vertexes. Oops. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to put what's called a skin on this box here. And that skin is going to tell these vertexes that when I move this bone, they need to go with it. And it maintains the offset of whatever you set it to be. And that offset can be blended, but we'll talk about that later. So what we're going to do is we need to select, in order to skin something, first of all, we need to be in rigging mode here. Second of all, we need to select everything. So in the hierarchy, don't do this, because when I do this, you can see it only selects that one thing. We want to click on there and then shift click down there and select all the joints. And then we want to come up here to skin, and we want to hit bind skin. And it'll think about it, and then it'll move all this stuff around, and now you can see that the entire thing is set to that one joint. That's hilarious. So now we have to go in, go over here to rigging, and we have to tell these, tell the objects which bone that they're attached to, because this is the skinning doesn't grab very well, because this is a very awkward object to rig. However, because we've kept the pieces separate, this should be pretty easy. So this button here is called Paint Skin Weights, and you'll become accustomed to that. So if we double click on Paint Skin Weights, you can see that it only has that one joint attached to it. And so what we're going to hit is Flood. And if I go into 5, you can see that it's totally white. And this big thing here is actually a brush. And I can make the brush smaller. There you go. So, and we can actually use this brush to paint with. So if we wanted to have this can be separated between two different bones, we could do that. Alright, so because this is totally white, and I go into perspective mode now, that means that this can object, the mesh, is attached to that bone which is blue, which is the can bone. So now let's go and do the lid, and we double click on that button, and something's gone horribly wrong because it's only showing me the can joint. I'm not sure why it did that. Alright, let's do this one more time. Select all those. Skin, unbind skin. If you make a mistake, unbind skin. Select all these. Yeah.
Professor, how'd you make the brush smaller again? Sorry.
Oh, if you go in here, and you scroll down to stroke radius.
Ah, got it. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure the Photoshop, like the greater than, less thans, make it smaller, bigger, something like that. There's a hotkey for it, and I never remember what it is.
If you hold down B and then kind of move your mouse like in and out of the screen, it'll change the size of the brush as well.
Nice. Yeah, I've got something wrong with my skinning functionality, is being really not great. It's trying to do everything to that one joint. Alright, hold on a second. Now I have to actually look at what's going on. What are you doing? Oh, joint hierarchy. Okay.
I've also been getting like weird. I was trying to bind the joints to my model, but the model keeps deforming.
Yeah, so I was going to show you how to do that. Mine refuses to. Actually do anything. For instance, if I select box, right, and I go in here, it's still just giving me that one joint. Why isn't it giving me the rest of the joints? These were all in part of the hierarchy. Something strange is going on. Okay, hold on a second.
Could it be that the box is not, since the box is not parented?
No.
Or the pizzas?
The box shouldn't be parented. These should all be separate objects. These should all be separate objects. And it should be happy to go through here and do this.
Maybe it needs to be constrained?
No.
Okay. No.
No, this should absolutely work. Let me just save this real quick.
Maybe it's just Maya beating Maya.
Yeah. When this is how do you tell when to restart Maya? When you have something that's going wrong and for no reason at all, then it's probably time to instead of trying to chase down what it is, just save your file and restart Maya. Now, if the problem persists after you've restarted Maya, then you've messed it up somehow. But I don't think I messed this up. And I loaded the wrong pizza box. This pizza box. Didn't I just create a... Oh, weird. It totally threw away all my stuff. I literally just saved pizza box 2 somewhere. Alright, is it in here? So Maya saves to documents Maya projects default scenes file. If you're not paying attention, that's where your stuff will go if you lose it. This is great. I'm making all the mistakes for you. Alright. Hold on a second. You, come here. Do-do-do-do. Do-do. Unparent. Just to be sure, we'll do that. Right view. This better work now because I've had to redo everything. Welcome to rigging, where it has to be done correctly or it doesn't work. Alright, I'm not going to go through and rename all my bones because that'll take me a little bit. File. Save scene as PizzaBox. 2, and please on the desktop. Alright. Grab all the objects and all the joints. Come up here to skin, bind skin. Yeah? Did that actually work? Did stuff move? Oh, it kind of maybe worked. I don't know. It's very strange. Alright, you to you, and it's still just doing that same thing again. What do I have set on skin that's making it? Does anybody else having this problem? No?
Yeah, kind of. Well, yeah, this like the whole model kind of like deforms when I do it.
Oh, that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure why mine is what's wrong with mine. Let me try something else. So I should be able to grab this, like grab this here, and it should just deform all the heck, and it's not, it's actually binding to that. Did that bind to that? No, it's weird. See, it's like done a whole bunch of what it should be doing is treating this as a single object because it was, but what it did was take all these objects and individually bind them to these bones, which is not what it's supposed to do. Alright, so we'll do this the hard way, just so I can show you what's going on, because mine's not working. And I don't want to take the time to figure out what I've done horribly wrong. Skin, unbind skin. So you can also do this if you're having trouble. I can make this one object. Go in here, create, do this button here, which changes all my different objects here to one object. I hit delete by type history to get rid of those red things up there. Then I can select all of these. You go skin, bind skin, joint hierarchy, apply. It's still doing the same thing. What is it about these objects that's so weird? I love it when a really simple demo goes all crazy. Alright, let's, like I said, welcome to rigging. Ah, that's so strange. I just recreated all these bones too. I just recreated all those objects. What is set here that's so strange? Oh yeah, look at that. Where did my lines go? Oh, that's even weirder. Okay, so now we look over here and what's going on with this. Huh. So much weirdness going on here. I can't even tell you guys. Like the fact that my joints connectors would disappear is not great. All right, let's try this one more time, and then I'm just going to move on. Oh my god, I'm going to kill you.
Mood.
Wow. That really...
It broke, just not in the way you wanted.
Yeah, I've never seen it do that before. I have no idea what it's doing or why it would even behave like that. That is so odd to me. Okay, try this. This is like a lesson in how to fix your files when they go all crazy. I'm going to do a completely new scene. I'm not going to save any of the changes. So now what that's done here, right, is given me a default Maya scene that's it'll remember like some of this. If I've changed any of these settings, it'll remember those, but it will not it'll not have any of the baggage of the previous scene. And then I'm going to go File, Import, and look for my file. Wow, maybe I have a bad install because it's not even showing me those. I'm going to come over here, PizzaBox 2, and I'm just going to drag it in here. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to reset the settings. That's what it should be doing. Thank God. Okay, no idea what happened there, but there you go. That's how you debug a file, something that isn't working really well. And then, of course, once it starts working like it's supposed to, I can save this as desktop PizzaBox 3. So something about the way I had the bind skin set was off, and that was causing a big problem. But now that everything is back, we can go pizza can. Oh, there's all the bones that then appear. That's great. Oh, thank God. We want this bone here, which is the can thing, to be part of this. So I need to select the can. I wanted to have it in this mode so you can see it. Hold on a second. Go back in here. So you can see the can is selected, but it's got like some black bits to it and stuff. So now if I were to move this can, you would see that where the black bits are is kind of stuck to the other bone, and as well as the case at the top of the pizza box is also stuck to the other bone. So what I'd like to do is just have this can be associated with this bone. So I need to tell this bone to extend its envelope in order to encompass this can. And that's what this does, and it uses color to do it. So I can come in here and paint this. I make sure that I have replace on or add, and I can just paint this all white. And since I only have this one object selected, it's very easy to do. There's no spillover. When you have like a character or something, it's a little harder to paint because you can accidentally paint on the other part, but I can't paint on anything that isn't selected or highlighted here. There's also this button here when you don't want to spend time painting, where you can just hit flood and it'll turn it bright white, which means that this bone now controls this object 100%. Now if I wanted this bone here to also control this object, I could hit add here and then come in here and paint a little bit. This is opacity, just like in Photoshop. It's way turned up here. And so you can see now that this bone will now control all the parts that are white. But I want this bone to control it all. So I'm going to hit flood again, blink, and you can see I don't want to add, I want to replace, flood, there we go. Oh, turn up volume, flood. So flood is kind of like a fill tool in Photoshop. Great, so now that is controlled purely by that bone. So now I want to select the lid, and you can see it's selected and it's controlled by multiple bones. We only want it controlled by this yellow bone here. So I'm going to go back into the editor and select the bone, and you can see it turned blue. This one's blue too, but only because it's connected to this one. So now I want to hit flood, and you can see the whole box turns white, meaning that it's now associated with that bone I have selected. I close this down, and I can go to the box, hit the paint weight, skin weights tool, find the bone that goes to the box, that one, it's the top of the hierarchy, hit flood, and now that bone is connected to that, or this box is connected to that bone. And then the last thing we need to do is the pizza. There's the pizza. There's the pizza. And I want that to be selected to just this little bone here. So I select that, I hit flood, and you can't see it, but it just changed colors. Okay, great. So now that I have all these things connected like they're supposed to, and I've given them skin weights, we can we don't need to touch these anymore, because we can't actually animate these anymore because they're part of a skin cluster. So the meshes that we animated before are no longer relevant. What is relevant are all the joints, or these things here. So we're going to put keys on these. So just like we did before, I'm going to put a key on frame 1, and then I'm going to come over to frame 30, and I'll do the exact same animation we had done before. And I can even translate this off, because this pizza box is attached to this joint, not to this joint. Oh. And you can also rotate a bone as much as you want. So this, if you were making a video game and you wanted a pizza box that opened, this is how you would have to do it.
What was the button for keyframes again? I'm sorry.
S. So I have mine set. Let me get rid of it to what's called prompt, but you just want current time. Set key, so that you can come over here and set keys. Now any of these objects, we can share the binding to the bone with a bone anywhere else in it, just by like if we wanted the can to be part of the pizza bone, so it spun. We could do that, except that it you just have to pick the right. So now I have the can and that bone, and I can add a little bit of it to that. So now the pizza, you can see how it spins, is now controlling part of that can that I just hit up with the white stuff, with the hierarchy paint. These vertexes are being told to pay attention to that bone more than this bone. So they're like whatever percentage there and whatever percentage here. But we can just put them back. And weight painting isn't animated, so it doesn't matter if you have animation here. We're not setting keys on weight painting. So you can do that. You can have animation on your object and weight paint. In fact, sometimes it's really good to do that, to have animation. So for instance, if you're doing a character, you for sure need to put an you rig and then you skin your character and then you animate it a little bit to test out how the rig works in case there's a stray vert or something going on. So for instance, if I take some of this pizza box here and I paint it to that. So now when I open this pizza box, you can see, oh crap, that one corner is accidentally parented to this over here. That's not good. So you just need to go in and select the proper joint for it. There it is. And then paint it back how it's supposed to be. Sometimes it's hard to get to where the paint is. To what needs to be painted. It like doesn't always grab real well. You can up your volume and then it'll just go. So that's why you would animate a rig once it's painted. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Cool. Anybody have any questions about that now that it actually is working? You could have also made this one object and then separated it out, but it's a lot harder to do something like this. This is such a rigid sort of deal. It's harder to assign parts with when it's all one object. It's not impossible, but it's much harder. All right. So that is using joints and skinning. And we're going to revisit that here in a second. But I'm going to stop the video now and I'll upload